Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Hello. It's Thursday already. How did it get to be Thursday? It's the final day of July. Holy smokes. Here is your Thursday poll question at Smerconish.com. Will Kamala Harris be the Democratic nominee in 2028? Will former Vice President Kamala Harris be the Democratic nominee in 2028? Hey, that's not the poll question you promised yesterday. I'll explain in just a moment. First, thank you to my friends at Parks Casino. Summertime, the beach, the boat, the great outdoors. Enjoy casino action and sports betting wherever you are all summer long. Parks Casino and Play Gun Lake in Michigan. In Michigan, it's the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. Live betting on sports is better on the Play Gun Lake app. You can bet player performance. Did you see that? Speaking of player performance, I wonder how this would have been handled at Play Gun Lake and my friends at Parks Casino. There was an MLB player last night who was traded in the midst of a doubleheader and played for both teams. How is that possible? Whether your team wins or not, there's always another way. I wonder if somebody had that prop bet. There's always another way for you to win on the Play Gun Lake app, the only app that I ever use and recommend in the great state of Michigan. Check out all the new games on the Play Gun Lake app. Huff and More Puff, Mega Fire Blaze, Dwarves and Goblins, the Flintstones, plus Money Horse, and Blackjack, and Baccarat, and Roulette, and all the fun stuff. New users get up to $1,000 casino bonus back. If you're down in the first 24 hours, that casino bonus has to be wagered. Go to playgunlake.com, download the app right now. Enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino at your fingertips. You've got to be 21 and in Michigan for Play Gun Lake. You love to play, you play to win, you bet. Play Gun Lake. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So a lot of voting yesterday in the Wednesday poll question. 34,751 votes cast. Will President Trump offer clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell? And 65.44% said yes. Again, not should he, because that's a clear no. The question yesterday was whether he would, and 2/3 said yes. The only update of significance that I have seen on this story is a brief one, and that is that the family of Virginia Giuffre, the sex abuse advocate who died by suicide in April, have now made their plea to President Trump in a public statement saying, don't do it. The Giuffre family called Trump's admission shocking, that he was questioning and contemplating the possibility of providing some form of clemency to Ghislaine Maxwell. Quote, it was shocking to hear President Trump invoke our sister and say that he was aware that Virginia had been stolen from Mar-a-Lago. It makes us ask if he was aware of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal actions, especially given his statement 2 years later that his good friend Jeffrey, quote, likes women on the younger side. No doubt about it. We and the public are asking for answers. Survivors deserve this, the family added. He did not bring her up. The fact remains that the president kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club. That was the White House statement that was released on all of this. I had said yesterday that arising out of a great conversation that I had with Mark Halpern, please listen to that podcast episode yesterday if you missed it. But the combination of my dialogue with Mark, my own observations, and something that Brett Stevens had written in the New York Times caused me to say there's a poll question coming at Smerconish.com somewhere along the lines of, is it in the best political interests of Democrats to publicly give President Trump credit when he accomplishes something with which they agree? I'm going to do that poll question. I might do it on Saturday in connection with CNN, but I'm not doing it today because other news has intervened. But on that issue, Brett Stevens, the key paragraph from his op-ed in the Times, he said, but if Trump's opponents want to someday be effective, and let's face it, we haven't been, so he puts himself in the category of Trump's opponents, then we need to come to grips with realities that have so far eluded us, such as not everything he does is bad. So that's on ice. But where the former Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday announced that she's not going to run for governor of California, I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to ask about her political fate, i.e., will she be the Democratic nominee in 2028? Will she be the Democrat? And I say no for a variety of reasons. But if you ask me who it will be, I can't do better than to isolate, the usual suspects. So if she had run in 2026, it would have taken her out of the 2028 cycle as a matter of practicality, right? Because everybody would have asked during the course of the campaign. And by the way, this is a question that's going to be asked of Josh Shapiro. Will you serve a full term? And Kamala Harris would not have been able to answer that question if she had her eye on the presidency. I know this is easier said than done because I guess someone who's been the VP, and when you play at that level or you're the nominee of your party and you lose, even if you weren't the vice president, everybody wants to have the big job. Seems to me that a pretty good gig would be to be governor of California and just see how things go and ride it out. I don't think it serves her well if she wants to be president immediately running for the presidency, because that cycle is going to start. That cycle is going to start the minute the midterms are over. So she's committing herself now to running for the next several years. If she does it, I was reading a number of things. I read the LA Times coverage. I read the New York Times coverage, the Washington Post, Politico, all trying to gain insight into her decision-making. Nobody who knows anything knows whether she'll really run in 2028. But amidst the reading, there was this paragraph from the LA Times. She has largely eschewed the limelight, occasionally critiquing Trump's actions, but hardly positioning herself as a face of the resistance. In recent months, she's greeted graduating high school seniors in Compton, made a surprise appearance at the Met Gala in New York City, and attended Apple co-founder Steve Jobs' daughter's wedding in the English countryside. Over the weekend, she's reportedly writing a memoir and contemplating starting a nonprofit focused on young voters and democracy, or a political action committee to help Democrats. She's also focused on artificial intelligence. I read that and I thought, that seems like a pretty good life. It seems like a pretty good life. Instead of the slog of, okay, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to give some speeches. And by the way, the book's not going to be a huge seller unless she really talks about what the back of the house as she was the vice president, which leads me to another consideration for Kamala Harris and whether she will run for the presidency in 2028. And if she does, whether she'll be the nominee. She's got some explaining to do. I mean, we've talked in the past about certain of the Democratic candidates, including Josh Shapiro, those who were out there giving assurances to the public that Biden all was well, that he was on top of his game. What were they seeing, backstage? And of all of those individuals, it's Kamala Harris, given her proximity to the president, who I think has the most explaining to do. The other consideration for Harris is, and this is related to Biden, is age. So she's 60. No problem with a 60-year-old, running for the president, says this 63-year-old. She'll be 63 in 2028. No problem. She'll be 67 in 2032. She'll be 67 in 2032. Again, I don't think 67 is too old to run for office. I think it's just fine. If you add a decade to that, then I think it's problematic. But another, part of her thinking, gaming this out, has to be, okay, I'm going to take a breather on the gubernatorial race in California. I'm going to run maybe for president in 2028. But wait a minute, if I don't run for president in 2028 and a Democrat runs, then that Democrat, if they win, will be up for re-election in 2032. I'll be 67. I can't go against a Democrat. Wait a minute. I guess I could go in 2036. Wow. But now I'm going to be 71 years old. And along this game theory, it really requires a flow chart. But according to this game theory, if Kamala Harris is not the candidate in 2028 and a Democrat wins and that candidate runs for reelection in 2032 and wins, and now it's 2036, you're now asking to follow a two-term Democratic incumbent by that scenario. And is the country really going to want that many Democrats in a row? 12 years of Democratic leadership. It gets complicated is my point. My point is also that age starts to be a factor in her consideration. And personally, there's a lot to be admired in the former vice president, but she's never been a great candidate. She had that one fleeting moment at the outset of what cycle would that have been? Oh, geez, now I'm getting confused. Was that the 16 cycle? I think it was the 16 cycle where, the busing issue, and then dropped out of that race before a single vote was cast. Did she particularly distinguish herself in running against Trump? I don't think so. And one other thing that's really interesting, speaking about Shapiro and Harris as the VP, Kamala Harris, if she does go in 2028, will be running against individuals that she vetted for the vice presidency. She vetted Josh Shapiro and decided that he was too ambitious, according to the published accounts. I referenced Jonathan Martin. He's got a good piece in Politico because he went to the gathering of the National Governors Association in Colorado Springs last week. Comes back with some tidbits about how they believe, the Democratic governors, that they're going to nominate one of their own in 2028. There's reference to Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Wes Moore from Maryland, Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, former Rhode Island governor turned Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, Andy Beshear in Kentucky, and Gavin Newsom, of course, in California. Anyway, this all leads me to predict it, because my poll question today asks, will she be the Democratic nominee? So yes, the exchange is already open at Predict It. Gavin Newsom is a 21-cent pick. So if I bet 21 cents on him, I win $1. Followed by AOC at 14 cents or 14%. Then Mayor Pete at 9 cents. Then Josh Shapiro at 7, Andy Beshear at 7, Kamala Harris at 6. So she's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position in terms of likelihood, according to Predict It, to be the Democratic nominee, followed by Gretchen Whitmer, followed by Wes Moore. I don't think it's Harris. I don't think it's Mayor Pete. It's interesting. There was a caller yesterday who said that Dems ought to go full Mamdani. Instead of running from Zohran Mamdani, just go full in on the Mamdani AOC wing of the party. Give them their shot. And I said that I thought that would be unsellable in Middle America. And then the caller, I think, made reference to the unsaleability of a junior senator from Illinois with a funny sounding name, whose family has roots in Kenya. And I thought, okay, point made. I don't have a name for you. When I was on Mark Halpern's podcast 2 or 3 days ago, he asked me to identify, Democratic front runners. And I don't have anything unique that I can offer here. Each has assets, each has liabilities. Nobody is the clear favorite. He also, Mark, asked me why Shapiro has not been as aggressive against Trump as has Newsom. And my answer is because Shapiro's got a re-election race, and even though I think he's safe, especially if Doug Mastriano runs as a Republican, oh my goodness, and wins the nomination. But Donald Trump won Pennsylvania again. Donald Trump didn't win California. So I think that Shapiro has got to be antsy just about the MAGA base and whether they would turn out against him if he antagonized them. Fun stuff, right? A lot of good stuff. Anyway, enjoy it. Vote on the Thursday poll question at Smerconish.com. Will former Vice President Kamala Harris be the Democratic nominee in 2028? And on the program today, we'll have some fun, not only talking about that, but I'll entertain telephone callers who have perhaps someone beyond the usual suspects that they want to put into the mix. So please and thank you, go vote at Smerconish.com on today's poll question, and watch me on YouTube, as many do each and every day. If you've never watched me expressing the poll question of the day on YouTube, I cordially invite you to do so. If you're there, please like and subscribe and set yourself up for notifications. Okay? Thank you, gang. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.